No matter how hard you try, it never feels enough, does it? You ever feel like you're slowly disappearing from your own life? Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but in these small, quiet moments where you realize you haven't really felt like yourself in a long time. You still wake up, you still go through your routine, you still do what needs to be done, but something feels distant, like there's a version of you missing. And the strange part is, you can't exactly point to when it started, because it didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly. So slowly. You didn't even notice. At first, it just felt like you were growing, becoming more responsible, more mature, more in control. You started thinking more carefully, acting more appropriately, saying the right things at the right time, and people noticed. They respected you more, they trusted you, they saw you as someone reliable, and that felt good. It gave you a sense of stability, a sense of identity. But somewhere along the way, that identity started replacing something else, something more real, something more you. Because instead of being who you were, you became who made sense, who fit better, who caused less friction. And at first, that trade felt worth it. You avoided conflict, you avoided awkwardness, you avoided rejection, but you also started avoiding something else. Yourself. Not intentionally, just gradually. You stopped saying things that might upset people. You stopped expressing emotions that felt inconvenient. You stopped choosing things that didn't align with expectations. And little by little, you became easier to accept, but harder to recognize. And that's where the shift happens. When your life becomes more about maintaining peace than expressing truth. Because peace without honesty starts to feel empty. You smile, even when you don't feel like it. You agree, even when you don't fully mean it. You show up, even when a part of you wants to pull away. And over time, that creates distance, not from other people, but from yourself. And that kind of distance is hard to notice at first, because everything still works. Your life still moves forward. You still function. You still do what you're supposed to do. But something feels off, like you're slightly out of sync with your own life, like you're playing a role instead of living as yourself. And maybe you felt that before. In conversations where you're saying the right things, but none of it feels real. In moments where you should feel happy, but something feels missing. In quiet spaces where you suddenly realize you don't really know what you want anymore. And that realization can be uncomfortable, because when you lose touch with yourself, everything else starts to feel uncertain. Your choices, your direction, your relationships, it all feels slightly disconnected. And yet, you keep going. Because stopping feels harder. Slowing down means thinking, and thinking means facing questions you're not sure how to answer. So instead, you stay busy. You distract yourself. You fill your time with things that keep you moving, because movement feels easier than awareness. But here's the thing. That feeling you've been avoiding, it doesn't go away. It waits. It builds. It shows up in quiet moments. Late at night, early in the morning, in between conversations, in those small gaps where you're not distracted. And in those moments, it asks you something simple. Is this really you? And most of the time, you don't answer. Not because you don't care, but because you don't know. And that's the hardest part, not knowing yourself anymore. Because when you don't know yourself, everything becomes guesswork. You choose based on logic, based on expectations, based on what seems right, but not based on what feels right. And over time, that disconnect grows. Until one day, you realize you've built a life that works, but doesn't feel like yours. And that realization can hit hard. Because now it's not just about small changes. It feels bigger than that. It feels like you've lost something important. Something you can't easily get back. But here's the truth. You didn't lose yourself. You just stopped listening. And that's a big difference. Because something that's lost feels gone. But something you stopped listening to is still there, quiet, waiting. And the moment you start paying attention again, it starts coming back. Not all at once, but slowly, in small ways. You notice what actually bothers you. You notice what actually excites you. You notice what feels right and what doesn't. And at first, that awareness can feel overwhelming, because it shows you how disconnected you've been, but it also shows you something else. That connection is still possible. That you're still there, underneath all the adjustments, underneath all the expectations, underneath all the versions of yourself you created to fit in. And reconnecting with that version of you doesn't require a complete reset. It doesn't mean changing everything overnight. It starts with something simple: honesty with yourself. Admitting when something doesn't feel right. Admitting when you're forcing something. Admitting when you're not being real. Not the perfect version, not the most successful version, just the real version. And that's enough, because being yourself feels different. It feels lighter. It feels clearer. It feels real. And that's what most people are actually searching for. Not perfection, not constant happiness, just that feeling of being real again. And if you've been feeling disconnected lately, if something in your life feels off, even though everything looks fine, don't ignore that. Don't push it away. That feeling isn't a weakness, it's a signal that something inside you is trying to come back. And all you need to do is listen. And if this hits something in you, if you've been feeling like this, just know, you're not alone. A lot of people are going through this quietly. They just don't talk about it. So if this resonated with you, drop it in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, the kind that actually help you reconnect with yourself, make sure you subscribe. Because the more you understand yourself, the more your life starts to feel like yours again. And that changes everything.